Ready to jump into Bajaj Housing Finance? Talk about a wild ride since their IPO just a few months ago.
How so?
Well, first their stock more than doubled,
And then it dropped 30%.
and today, even more interesting,
What's happening?
a key lock-in period just ended for some investors. So, we're going to break it all down. What's really going on with Bajaj Housing Finance and what it means for their future?
Sounds good.
Their IPO was a huge success.
They raised a massive amount, over 6,560 crore.
And get this, the offering was subscribed nearly 67 times over.
Seriously?
Yeah. Bids totaled something crazy like 3 lakh crore.
That's wild.
And the stock soared more than double from that 70 rupee offering price.
To hit a peak of 180K.
And all within days of listing.
That's impressive.
But then, a 30% drop down to around 125.
That's a pretty dramatic correction after such a strong start.
Right, what usually causes that?
Sometimes the initial excitement, all the hype, can inflate the price beyond the company's actual value. Then investors get more cautious and you have a correction.
Makes sense.
We also have to think about external factors like how the market is feeling overall and trends in the industry.
Right.
The housing finance sector in India is supposed to grow a lot in the coming years, but there's always some uncertainty and risk.
Okay, so let's talk about that lock-in period that just ended. December 12th was the big date.
And now 12.6 crore shares, about 2% of the company, are available to be traded freely.
For people who might not know about lock-in periods, it's basically a set time where certain investors, often these big institutions, agree to hold on to their shares after a company goes public. It helps stabilize things and prevents a sudden flood of shares hitting the market.
Right, because if everyone who bought during the IPO suddenly decided to sell, the price could tank.
Exactly. But with the news today, it doesn't necessarily mean those anchor investors will sell, just that now they can.
So how does this typically impact a stock price? Should we be worried about a big sell-off?
It's kind of a psychological game. Investors try to guess what those big investors will do. If they think a sell-off is coming, it can create a ripple effect and push the price down further.
So is that what's happening now?
The stock is actually down about 6% today. But short-term fluctuations are normal, especially in a situation like this. The bigger question is, what happens long-term?
We've got this potential for volatility, but over the past month, the stock has been pretty flat, trading around 134. Does that mean things are stable? Or is there still a chance for more ups and downs?
It's tough to say for sure. The market reacts to new information constantly. Sentiment can change so fast.
So where do we go from here? What should we be watching to figure out where this stock might be headed?
Keeping an eye on the trading volume of those newly unlocked shares, that's key. If we see a big jump, it could be a sign those investors are selling.
Any news from Bajaj Housing Finance themselves is important too, like their financial performance, new initiatives or partnerships, and their overall outlook for the future. All of that can affect investor sentiment
and ultimately impact the stock price.
Before we go any further, it might be helpful to step back and give everyone a clear picture of what Bajaj Housing Finance actually does.
Good point. It's easy to get caught up in all the market stuff and forget about the business itself.
So, in simple terms, what does Bajaj Housing Finance do?
They offer different financial solutions for buying and renovating homes and commercial properties. Home loans, loans against property, things like that.
They're a big player in this market?
Oh yeah, a major player in India's housing finance market. Considered one of the top companies. Actually, they're classified as an upper layer non-banking financial company, or NBFC, by the Reserve Bank of India.
And what does that mean?
It means they're subject to specific regulations and oversight. So, they seem like a pretty established player in a potentially lucrative market. Let's shift gears and talk about their position within the industry. How do they stack up against the competition? What are the biggest opportunities and challenges they're facing?
It's a pretty competitive market. You've got big names like HDFC and LIC Housing Finance, plus some newer companies entering the market and smaller NBFCs too.
So with all that competition, how does Bajaj Housing Finance set themselves apart?
One of their biggest strengths is their brand. People recognize the Bajaj name.
It's a well-respected group.
Exactly. A trusted name in India's financial sector. They've also got a strong network for distributing their products and they focus on technology. using tech to make things easier.
That appeals to a lot of people, especially younger customers.
For sure, those tech-savvy customers want a seamless experience.
Absolutely. What about their products? Are they doing anything new or different to attract borrowers?
They've been branching out, going beyond traditional home loans.
Like what?
Things like lease rental discounting, developer financing, and even loans for home renovations. It lets them reach more customers.
Makes sense. They can tap into new markets that way.
Right, cater to a wider range of needs.
But with all this competition, what are some of the challenges they face?
One of the biggest challenges for any housing finance company is managing risk.
Especially now with the economic slowdown.
Exactly. There's always a chance people will default on their loans, and that can really hurt their profits.
How is Bajaj Housing Finance dealing with that risk?
They have strict processes for evaluating creditworthiness and systems for managing risk. They're also focused on building a diverse portfolio of loans.
So, not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Right, it helps to spread the risk.
Makes sense. What other hurdles might they encounter in this market?
Interest rates are a big one. Fluctuations can impact borrowing costs for customers and how profitable lending is for the company.
So, they need to find a balance.
Competitive rates for borrowers, but still profitable for them. And then there's the regulatory landscape. In India's financial sector, keeping up with the rules is crucial.
Absolutely. For any financial institution, they need to stay compliant and adapt.
So we've talked about the opportunities and challenges, but what about the bigger picture? How does Bajaj Housing Finance fit into India's growing housing market?
India has a major housing shortage, and the government is really pushing affordable housing initiatives.
So there's a big opportunity for companies like Bajaj Housing Finance to help people buy homes.
So they're not just providing loans, they're actually contributing to development and economic growth.
When people can get housing finance, it fuels the growth of the whole real estate sector. It creates jobs, boosts construction, and drives demand for related industries.
Pretty big impact.
It's amazing how a financial institution can shape a country's future.
But with great opportunity comes great responsibility. What are some ethical things Bajaj Housing Finance needs to be mindful of as they grow?
Responsible lending, making sure people can actually afford the loans, and being transparent and fair in everything they do. Predatory lending can devastate individuals and families. They need to prioritize ethical lending and customer protection, especially as they grow.
They also need to be aware of their social and environmental impact.
Like promoting sustainable building practices and supporting green housing projects. Sustainability is a big deal these days. Consumers and investors expect it.
True. Companies that embrace sustainability aren't just ticking boxes. They're positioning themselves as future ready and trustworthy in the eyes of stakeholders.
Absolutely. Companies that prioritize sustainability often gain a competitive edge, not just in reputation, but also in long-term financial stability.
So, Bajaj Housing Finance has a lot on its plate: managing growth, staying competitive, mitigating risks, and ensuring ethical practices.
Exactly. And with the housing finance market expected to grow, they'll need to stay innovative and focused to remain a leader.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot more to watch with this company. From market fluctuations to their strategic moves, it'll be interesting to see how they navigate the challenges and opportunities ahead.
No doubt. And for investors, keeping an eye on Bajaj Housing Finance could mean spotting some valuable opportunities or avoiding pitfalls.
Thanks for breaking this down with me today.
Always a pleasure. Looking forward to more insights next time.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Bajaj Housing Finance, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a comment. Your support helps us bring more insights into the financial world every week.
And if there's a topic you'd like us to cover, let us know. We're always looking for fresh ideas. Thanks for tuning in and see you next time.